In this session, we are going to discuss about ecosystems, food chain, food webs, ecological pyramids, and so on. An ecosystem is a community of living organisms in conjunction with the non-living components of their interacting in a system. The ecosystems can be defined by the network of interaction among organisms and between organisms and their environment. So they are linked together through nutrient cycle and energy flow. The energy that flows through ecosystem is obtained primarily from the sun. It generally enters the system through photosynthesis, a process that also captures carbon from atmosphere. By feeding on plants and on one another, animals play an important role in the movement of matter and energy through the system. So energy enters the biological system as light energy or photons and is transformed into chemical energy in organic molecules by cellular processes including photosynthesis and respiration, and ultimately they are converted into heat energy. So this energy is dissipated, meaning it's lost to the system as heat. So once it is lost, it cannot be recycled. Without the continued input of solar energy, biological systems would quickly shut down. So thus, the Earth is an open system with respect to energy. Elements such as carbon, nitrogen or phosphorus enter living organisms in a variety of ways. So plants obtain elements from the surrounding atmosphere, water or soils. Animals may also obtain elements directly from the physical environment, but usually they obtain these mainly as a consequence of consuming other organisms. So these materials are transformed biochemically within the bodies of organisms, but sooner or later, due to excretion or decomposition, they are returned to an inorganic state. Ecological systems have many biogeochemical cycles such as water cycle, carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle operating as part of the system. So all chemical elements occurring in organisms are part of the biogeochemical cycles. Their elements are thus cycled endlessly between their biotic and abiotic states within the ecosystems. Next is we are going to an ecosystem can possess both living components and biotic factors, and non-living or abiotic factors. So the non-living factors, that is called abiotic factors, are physical and chemical characteristics of the environment. So they include solar energy, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water, temperature, humidity, pH, and availability of nitrogen. The living components of environment are called biotic factors. So they include the living things that affect an organism. The trophic level interaction deals with how the members of an ecosystem are connected based on nutritional needs. So biogeochemistry is focused upon the cycling of essential materials in an ecosystem. So trophic level interaction deals with who eats or who and is eaten by whom in an ecosystem. So the study of trophical interaction in an ecosystem gives as an idea about the energy flow through the ecosystem. The trophic level interaction involves three concepts, namely food chain, food web, and ecological pyramids. Every living organism is in some way dependent on other organisms. So plants are food for herbivorous animals, which are in turn food for carnivorous animals. So thus there are different trophic levels in the ecosystem. So some organisms such as fungi live only on dead material and inorganic matter. So plants that are producers in ecosystem as they manufacture as their food by using energy from the sun. Because plants are always the producers. They directly consume the energy from the sun, and then the energy is passed on to the next level. So in the forest, these forms communities of plant life. In the sea, these include tiny algal forms to large seaweed. I mean, the base levels, the plant forms that may be in forest, they form the community of plant life. In sea, these includes the tiny algal forms to large seaweed. The herbivorous animals are primary consumers as they live on the producers. So that's why they are called primary consumers. In a forest, these are the insects. I mean, the primary consumers might be the insects, amphibia, reptiles, birds, and mammals. The herbivorous animals include, for example, hare, deer, elephants that live on plant life. They graze on grass or feed on the foliage from trees. So in grasslands, there are herbivores such as the blackbird that feed on grass. So in the semi-arid areas, there are species such as Indian gazelle or chinkara that feed on the grass. In the sea, there are small fish that live on algae and other plants. At a higher trophic level, there are carnivorous animals or secondary consumers, which live on herbivorous animals. So in our forest, the carnivorous animals like tigers, leopards, jaguars, and wildcats, they form the carnivores. In sea, the carnivorous fish live on other fish and marine animals. The animals that live in this tree range size from microscopic forms to the giant mammals such as the whale. The decomposer. So whatever we said now is the consumers. Producers are the plants because they collect the energy from the sun directly. From the producers, that means the plants are the producers. So plants are they are in turn eaten by the herbivores or carnivores. So they are the primary producers and secondary producers. I mean, primary consumers and secondary consumers are herbivores or carnivorous animals. Decomposers or detrivores are a group of organisms consisting of small mammals like worms, insects, bacteria, fungi, which break down dead organic matter into smaller particles and finally into simpler substances that are used by plants as nutrition. Decomposition thus is a vital function in nature, as without this all the nutrients would be tied up in dead matter and no new life could be produced. So decomposers plays a very important role in the chain of the system. Most ecosystems are highly complex and consist extremely large number of individuals and a wide variety of species. Ecological succession. Ecological succession. What is ecological succession? It's a process that through which ecosystems tend to change over a period of time. Succession can be related to seasonal environmental changes which create changes in the community of plants and animals living in the ecosystem. So other successional events may take much longer periods of time extending to several decades. If a forest is cleared, for example, it is initially colonized by a certain group of species of plants and animals, which gradually changes through an orderly process of community development. So one can predict that an open up area will gradually be converted into a grassland, shrubland, and finally into a woodland and a forest if permitted to do so without human interference. So there is a tendency for succession to produce a more or less stable state at the end of the successional stages. Developmental stages in the ecosystem thus consist of a pioneer stage, a series of changes known as several stages, and finally a climax stage. So successive stages are related to the way in which energy flows through the biological system. In terms of this, succession can be of two types, like primary succession and secondary succession. So in primary succession, the successional dynamics beginning with colonization of an area that has not been previously occupied by an ecological community, such as newly exposed rock or sand surfaces, lava flows, newly exposed glacial tilts, etc., are referred to as primary succession. That means primary succession before colonization has not occurred an area. In such areas, primary succession can be seen or can be called as region showing primary succession. Secondary succession. Successional dynamics following severe disturbance or removal of a pre-existing community are called secondary succession. So dynamics in secondary succession are strongly influenced by pre-disturbance conditions including the soil development, seed banks, remaining organic matter and residual living organisms. So because of residual fertility and pre-existing organisms, community change in early stages of secondary succession can be relatively rapid. So secondary succession is much more commonly observed and studied than primary succession. Mostly secondary succession is more observed. So particularly common types of secondary succession includes responses to natural disturbances such as fire, flood and severe winds, and to human caused disturbances such as logging and agriculture. So all these things regarding the secondary succession. In these dynamics following severe disturbances or removal of pre-existing communities called as secondary succession. Food chain, that's the trophic level interaction. Food chain. The transfer of energy from the source in plants through a series of organisms by eating and being eaten constitutes food chain. Or food chains are directional paths or trophic energy or equivalently sequences of links that start with the basal species such as producers of fine organic matter and end with consumer organisms. The food chain length is a continuous variable that provides a measure of the passage of energy and an index of ecological structure that increases in value, counting progressively through the linkages in a linear fashion from the lowest to the highest trophic levels. Food chains are often used in ecological modeling. They are simplified abstractions of real food webs, but complex in their dynamics and mathematical implications. I mean, the food chains generally vary from lengths of 3 to 6 or more levels. Like a simple chain can be called as a flower, then a frog, I mean the base coming as a flower, then frogs being eaten by snake, and then snake being eaten by all concepts. Like just a 4 level chain can be called as a food chain, simple food chain. Producers such as plants or organisms that utilize solar energy or heat energy to synthesize starch. So all food chains must start with a producer. Consumers are organisms that eat other organisms. All organisms in a food chain except the first organisms are consumers. So the base is always the producers, plants, whether it is in forest, whether it's in sea, or wherever the base of a food chain will start with the producer, that is plants, and whoever consumes the plants are called as consumers. That might be herbivore, I mean, non-herbivores animals, and in turn, who consumes herbivores are also called consumers. But the first level consumers are called primary level consumers. The second level are called secondary level consumers. So whenever a herbivore animal eats a plant, or when bacteria and these organic compounds are oxidized, so the energy liberated is just equal to the amount of energy used in synthesizing the substance. That is in turn called as the first law of thermodynamics. But some of the energy is heat and not useful energy. If this animal is in turn by another one, along with the transfer of energy from herbivore to carnivore, a further decrease in useful energy occurs at the second animal, which oxidizes the organic substances of the first to liberate energy to synthesize its own cellular constituents. Like such transfer of energy from organism to organism sustains the ecosystem, and when energy is transferred from individual to individual in a particular community, as in a pond or lake or a river, we come across the food chains. So the energy from each level, from the bottom to the top, the energy is consumed. It gets lower. Each transfer of an step in each trophic level, the transfer of energy is once it is transferred, it is getting less. Many direct or indirect methods are employed to study food chain relationships in nature. Next is food web. So at each transfer in the food chain, a larger proportion of energy is lost in the form of heat. So these food chains are not isolated sequences but are interconnected with each other. So this interlocking pattern is known as the food web. So each step of the food web is called the trophic level. Like in like green plants, they occupy the first level, herbivores the second level, carnivores the third level, and secondary carnivores the fourth level. So in nature, the simple food chains occur rarely. The same organism, like in simple food chains, the same organism may operate in the operate system in the ecosystem more than one trophic level. That is, it may derive its food from more than one source. Even the same organism may be eaten by several organisms of higher trophic level, or an organism may feed upon several different organisms of a lower trophic level. Usually, the kind of food changes with the age of the organism and food availability. So, thus, in a given ecosystem, various food chains are linked together and interest each other to form a complex. They are interlinked with each other to form a complex network of food web. That is why it's called food web. Like many food chains are interlinked to form a food web. Because in each trophic level, like for example, the frog in the simplest food chain, maybe from the plants to the herbivores. The herbivores in that animal may be eaten by some other in the carnivores, or some other the food they feed might be the same. So that's why many food chains are interlinked in the food web. This is the ecological pyramid. An ecological pyramid is a graphical representation designed to show the biomass or the biomass productivity at each trophic level in a given ecosystem. So, what is biomass actually? It is the amount of living or organic matter present in an organism. Ecological pyramids begin with producers at the bottom, such as plants, and proceed through the various trophic levels, such as the herbivores that eat plants, then carnivores that eat herbivores, then carnivores that eat those carnivores, and so on. So the highest level is the top of the food chain. The ecological pyramids represent the trophic structure and also the trophic function of this ecosystem. In many ecological pyramids, the producer from the base, that is the plants, and the successive trophic levels make up the apex. The ecological pyramid may be of three types, like pyramid of numbers, pyramid of biomass, pyramid of energy. Pyramid of numbers usually depict the number of individual organisms at different trophic levels of the food chain. This pyramid of great difference in the number of organisms involved in each step of the food chain. So the animal at the lower end of the chain are the most abundant. Whoever like if for example the plants are at the base level, the number of the plants at their base level will be low. When it goes to successive the next steps, the consequently the number will be decreasing. And pyramid of number ignores is that is the animal at the lower end or the base of the pyramid of the chain are the most abundant. Then successive limbs of carnivores decrease rapidly in number until there are few carnivores at the top. The next is the pyramid of biomass. The biomass of the members of the food chain present at any one time forms the pyramid of the biomass. Pyramid of biomass indicates the decrease of biomass in each trophic level from base to apex. For example, the total biomass of the producers ingested by herbivores is more than the total biomass of the herbivores in ecosystem. So likewise, the total biomass of the primary carnivores or the secondary consumers will be less than herbivores and so on. So the ecological pyramid can be divided into three types or turned into three, like pyramid of numbers, pyramid of biomass, and pyramid of energy. Like the pyramid of energy. In pyramid of energy, the production is controlled in terms of energy. That is, the pyramid indicates not only the amount of energy flow at each level, but more important, the actual role the various organisms play in the transfer of energy. The base upon which the pyramid of energy constructed a quantity of organisms produced per unit time, or in other words, the rate at which the food material passes from from one state to the other, one step to the other through the food chain. Some organisms may have small biomass, but the total energy they assimilate and pass on may be considerably greater than that of organisms with much larger biomass. So that's why the production in terms of energy is considered not only the amount of energy flow at each level, but more importantly the actual role the various organisms play in the transfer of energy. Okay, three types of energy pyramids. The three types of ecological pyramids we have discussed.